Good morning, dear community. How is the sound? Is it loud enough? So welcome again to everyone who is arriving today. It's so wonderful to see all of you, to be together. Some of us have been here for a few days, and yesterday we got to listen to a really wonderful talk by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm going to kind of pick up a little bit with where that talk was. So I'll begin with just a brief summary of some of it. A topic which many of us know well. Seed watering. So yesterday, Thich Nhat Hanh did his classic drawing, which I'll do for you, which is meant to be a representation of our mind, of our consciousness, of our experience. And in this lower half, deep inside of us, it's called we call it a store consciousness. So, and down in this store consciousness are all the potential seeds. So there's a potential for joy, seed of joy. There's a potential for anger, potential for fear. So these live inside, and our experiences in our daily life come and they may touch one of these seeds. And when it's touched, it comes up. This upper part is our experience that we're aware of, what's happening within us that we're aware of right now. So if the seed of joy is touched, it comes up and it fills the space here. And we're experiencing joy. If we read something on the news and it touches the seed of fear, fear comes up and we're experiencing fear. And he was sharing how the more a seed is touched and it spends time, he called this our living room and this our basement. The more we spend time with it in our living room, it goes back and it's grown a little bit more. It's more significant in our store. And the way seeds are watered, it's the things we're taking in. Obviously the news we read, but also conversations we have, the content of those conversations. Are we talking about things that bring us hope or intimacy, or talking about things that make us feel agitated or hateful? And we can also water the seeds within ourselves. So it's not only what comes in from outside, but also what we're doing in our mind. So something from outside can bring it up, but we can also bring it up ourselves and invite it into our living room. And so we can water the negative seeds that way by ruminating on things all through the day, things that make us anxious or sad. The stories we tell about ourselves to ourselves, we're growing that. That view of ourselves as we play that story over and over again. Or, especially as practitioners, we know we can intentionally grow the seeds by intentionally choosing things and bringing into our living room things that nourish well-being in ourselves. Yeah.
Can you speak just a little louder?
Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, I can try moving the mic closer. I'll try moving it closer. Sometimes I hold it too. If this doesn't work, let me know again, and I'll hold it. So, Thich Hana has invited us to take inventory of our lives, of our minds, and you can make a list. If we were on retreat, we would do this because we would have lots of time. Of our positive seed watering and our negative seed watering. And you can do that by just taking a random day. If you were on retreat yesterday, maybe not yesterday. It wouldn't be a good representation, but maybe the day before. And just start with waking up in the morning and review the day, what happened. So maybe we woke up and we have a routine to have a cup of tea and sit and pause and look out the window. So we, going through the day, oh, that I do that and that brings a feeling of ease, maybe gratitude. Maybe wonder. Yeah. So you go through and you see and recognize, that's really precious and important moment in my day. And then for me, then sometimes I am trying to rush my children because they're not ready to go to school. That brings up a lot of frustration. Maybe anxiety. Yeah, and then I can see how that next part of my day, how I live it, it's watering unwholesome seeds that cause me to suffer. So you can kind of take the time to go through, and that way you can see more clearly, how are you living? How are you taking care of yourself? And kind of really celebrate and make sure you don't lose the times that you're really nourishing well-being, and maybe see what you can do to adjust to how you're living or thinking at the times when you're watering your negative seeds. And it can be there's the really obvious things like, I'm doing this and I'm feeling that. And then you're just kind of going through your day, and then try to look and see, what am I thinking about most of that time? Because that's can be very interesting to see what seeds you're watering habitually throughout your day. I'm going to use a different image now. So this circle is actually, representing my inner experience. And actually I might take never mind. So if I'm not paying attention, I can fill my inner space with many things, like I'm going to add in this is a to-do list, and paying my bills, and maybe watching Netflix, and reading the news captions. Ruminating in myself about the things I'm worried about my family members. Looking at advertisements for things I don't need. Yeah. Trying to get my children to clean their room. Okay. For me especially, there would be a lot more of this kind of energy of what's happening in the world, things I'm worried about. And pretty soon, if I'm not paying attention, it's all kind of on the negative side. It's all weighty things. If I just go with habit, and if I just go with what the world is feeding me right now, that's what my inner landscape can look like. We don't have it built in our habit body or in our society to have a lot of pause time to nourish ourselves, to experience joy. It's kind of like to do the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And there's a lot of kind of grasping in there. And so, especially in the last month, this could start to happen in me. And I would feel heavy. So we have this amazing power as a practitioner to create something different inside. We don't just have to be a victim of that. And for me, I can feel it so clearly when I notice that this is happening. I stop and I'll do a practice to create a different kind of resource inside, to wake something else up within me. And there are many, many ways we can do that. One of the ones that I've been using a lot lately is mountain solid. It's very simple. It seems maybe for children, but for me it's very powerful because mountains are real to me. The impact they have on me is very real. They're just so beautiful and so powerful. So I'll go sit in my room for a moment and I'll start to bring up that meditation. And I'll imagine the mountain. What does the mountain feel like? What does it really feel like to be that mountain? To have all of that space and solidity and beauty. And I sit there with it until I feel this wonderful quality of mountainness in myself. And what my experience is when I'm doing that, it's like this is what was there, and then this lightness presses up into it. And at that moment, it fills me. And what my experience is then the rest of the day is that there's something else in there. And I can feel it later on in the day, and I can touch it easily because I've brought it up. And so if we want to have these resources of well-being, we need to stop and sit and grow them. Not just like in our mind, oh, I think I should do this. You have to do it to the point where you can start to feel it in your body. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's just so tangible to me, like how full it can be with the negative news, and then how I can I feel like I'm pushing out through the darkness and creating a new space. It's very active. Oh, it has a clock. It's easy to lose track of the time. And you can bring up any of the wholesome seeds that nourish you. You can bring up a feeling of contentment and just sit with it and grow that. A feeling of joy. You may have forgotten joy. And it might be hard to find at first, but you keep looking for it. Joy, what do you feel like? I know I felt you, and maybe you need to call upon a memory or two until you start to find that again. As practitioners, we're invited not just to follow the impulse of running and grasping. Because that's what will happen if we don't intentionally do something. Always thinking our happiness is going to come later. Always looking for that next thing. We're invited to make space in our life to actually feel like a free person. Like nothing is pulling us away. We're invited to not miss our life by running all the time, but give ourselves the gift of enjoying it, of dropping into a moment and be fully alive. And if you forget what that's like, you can see if you can find a little child. 2 or 3. They're fully there. They see everything and see how amazing it is. Yeah. How cool it is. I have a practice that I do before I work. Because when I'm working, it's a place that habit energy can really come up. And I do some work most days. So I like to pick places to nourish my well-being that are repetitive, that I do regularly, so that it happens regularly. So I do some work on most days. And so I created before I let myself work, I do a practice. So I give myself like 5 minutes. I make myself a cup of tea if I'm at home. And I actually create a little altar near where I work, next to where I work. I had been doing the practice for a while, and then I was like, oh, I miss offering incense. So then I went and I found an incense holder, and that's now there where I work. So before I work, I light an incense, and I give myself a few minutes. And for work, what I really need is the energy of non-grasping. So I'm become aware of the grasping energy that can arise, wanting to accomplish something or wanting to be successful or to do something well or not to harm anybody. Yeah, so I become aware of that energy and then I soften it and sit there until I feel some space and some freedom. And then I plant in my mind, okay, I want to do this work in freedom, and offering my love and not my fear, not my need to be perfect, yeah, but a trust that how I do it is going to be enough. Mm. Another place that I found that happens regularly in my life that I've been able to bring the practice in is spending time with my children. Because I want that to happen regularly. It's also a place I can share that with them and nourish myself, keep my practice alive. So there are many ways that I've learned to bring that into my time with them. And one of the main ones is just going on hikes and bringing a thermos of tea in my backpack and stopping someplace beautiful and having tea, having conversation, and kind of then we usually trickle into wonder, exploring, oh, look at that, and then we're off, exploring the world, you know, how beautiful this piece of moss is, and And it's fun now. They're getting older. They're all, well, my eldest is 20, and then I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, so they're all in that age. And it's starting to come back to me now. They're bringing it to me. Let's do this, Mom. Let's do that. All those kinds of things of pausing and being together. This summer, we took a vacation in Maine, and in the place we were staying, there was a tent in the backyard that was set up, this cool, it's called the Lotus something tent. It's like a white igloo looking thing. And my daughter and I had the idea to make a special evening for the family, so we baked some cookies and made tea, and we did it all when no one was looking. And we went around this house and found all the candles and brought them out and set up inside the tent, this special thing. And then we got the family outside at night, and one of us slipped in the tent and lit the lights so it started glowing. We're like, surprise! So we all went in, and often we'll hang out, and then sometimes we'll play games, and so that's what we did. We brought games out, and then my daughter said to me, she said, I want to decide what we do tonight, Mom. I said, okay. And so when they were younger, we did flower watering, and then at a certain point, this daughter did not want to do flower watering anymore. I think it made her uncomfortable somehow. There was like resistance there, so we stopped that practice. So then we all came in the tent and we sat down, and I was like, so we're going to spend the evening together, and Sariana's going to tell us what we're going to do. Oops, I said her name. I'm realizing as the talks are recorded, I can't use names as much anymore. Anyways, I think this one's okay. Sariana's going to tell us what we're going to do. So what do you want to do? And she said, first, I want to do flower watering. And I couldn't believe it, because it's been a few years, except for at retreats, since we had done that as a family practice. And I just, it really touched me a lot that's had soaked in and come back as something she wanted to do with this time, more before playing the games and usual things. It was such a beautiful moment. we started going around the circle, each one of us appreciating the other. And when it got to my son, he's a writer and loves to read many books. And over time, he has the books that he suggests to my youngest that he read when he was 10, right? He got her to read those when she was 10. And then the books he thinks I'll like, he'll suggest them to me. So he's got us all to read certain series that he likes. And so when it came to his turn, he said, I think I'm going to do something different. And so he picked characters. He's like, you are like Dalinar. You're so diligent in this, but you're also like this person who, loves to be mischievous. And so he kind of brought characters from each of the books that we were reading to kind of appreciate us through the characters. And then one of us took the times of the day. It was just spontaneous. I said, oh, you are like the morning, like the dawn, because you have this energy. And then I went through each of the family members, And that can kind of happen because as a little mini community, we have been practicing stopping. And then that's one of the really cool things that happens when you stop together or with yourself. New creativity comes, joy comes, life becomes like organic and magical, and new things are born. That's one of the things I love so much in the monastery, is like, because there was so much quieting and settling, this spontaneous joy and newness and creativity could happen together. Cultivating our mind of love can also be a huge source of well-being, and especially these days. Yeah. I mean, long ago, many of us may have chosen to want to be loved, right? Or been inspired by someone who had so much love in them and how they affected the world. But if we're not actually touching it, it's just this little memory. It's not really, we may find it's not really affecting us. It's not really brightening and giving us energy anymore unless we're waking it up. I find in myself there's a tendency to put labels on people and put them into a box. And part of that is trying to, it's a safety impulse to identify threats and to keep ourselves safe. Yeah. But when I do that, I'm really like affirming the separation between us. And I can feel it in my heart. It closes off my heart. Every human being that I know has negative seeds in them. Because, we're all sharing this life together. And we have been for many generations. And there's a lot of pain and misperceptions in our history that are still trickling around in us collectively. Unskillful coping mechanisms that my great-grandmother had are still popping up in me, and causing me to be unskillful with my dear friends. But if we just put the labels on each other of, oh, that person is like that because of their unskillfulness, and that person is like that because of their, our heart just becomes smaller and smaller, and we feel less and less connection to the world, the people in the world, and the people that we're close to also. So I like to go through and take off, see the labels I put up and try and take them off and go below. Okay, yes, it's not that I'm denying that this unskillfulness is there, but if I put that big sign there, that's all I see. And if I look a little bit deeper, there's so many beautiful things also there underneath. And if I start thinking about those beautiful things, if I take a moment to recognize them, my heart, it starts to have more space. It starts to open. And suddenly I feel like I can have a relationship with that person. Which when I had the big label there, I just wanted to go the other direction. Now I see them and I'm so happy because I know it's really there. So much more. There's a sutra in the chanting book that I like as a guide for my relationships that's kind of doing this practice, the discourse on the 5 ways to put an end to anger points directly to this practice. And it says, if there's someone whose actions are not kind, pay attention to their words that are kind. But their words are kind. A person who does unskillful things with their body, but they have kind words, take the time to notice the kind words. This is putting an end to anger. For me, first, it's for my own heart. We think being angry at someone it's about them, and maybe it is if it actually comes to us spilling it out, and I'm sure it is on even a subtle level, but for myself, I feel like I'm the one who is the most wounded when I'm angry, when I'm paying attention just to the unskillful actions of the body, because I will not just experience it once, I will experience it again later in the day, and then again next week. And the whole time, it's making my heart feel smaller and tighter and less connected to those around me. And if another one is, if their words aren't kind, but their actions are kind, make sure you take time to pay attention to the actions. Yeah. And if the words aren't kind and the actions aren't kind, but you know that in their heart there is some kindness, you're aware, you've heard it at some point, you know it's there. Pay attention to that. And he uses this really interesting example of a buffalo's footprint. For each of the 5, there's an example. And this one is, it's like you're so thirsty and you have nothing to drink, you're traveling, and you come across on the road, so this is not modern, obviously, and not a recommendation. It's an image. You come across a footprint that was made in the dirt, and there's a little bit of rainwater still there. And if you try to scoop it up with your hand, it's going to make the mud on the bottom come up, and it will dirty it. So he says you put your limbs down on the earth and your lips right to the water and very gently sip it. So there's a lot of effort and care. So someone whose actions aren't kind and their words aren't kind, you have to make the effort to find that little bit to receive it and take it in. And then he says, there's no kindness in their actions, words, or in their heart. That person is truly suffering. Mm-hmm. And the only way that they will find their way out is to have a spiritual friend who's willing to support them, because there are no resources inside. So instead of, the invitation is not to just completely hate that person, but even that person, have compassion because they are so suffering. There's no kindness at all inside. The first sutra in the chanting book is the Discourse on Love, inviting us to cultivate this mind of love. I'd like to read it, part of it. May everyone be happy and safe, and may all hearts be filled with joy. May all beings live in security and in peace. Beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in tranquility. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm. Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, cultivate boundless love to offer to all living beings in the entire cosmos. Let our boundless love pervade the whole universe, above, below, and across. Our love will know no obstacles. Our heart will be absolutely free from hatred and enmity. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, as long as we are awake, we may maintain this mindfulness of love in our own heart. reading in another text, there's a whole list of the benefits of cultivating our mind of love, of practicing metta. And it can be vast, like the sutra. It can be specific, like thinking of our loved one, or ourself. One of the benefits that said, and this is old text, is being able to sleep well. Yeah. And having an open and light mind, yeah, it kind of clears you inside, right? So we have this capacity, even if there's a lot of darkness that's being fed to us, and real darkness also there. We have this capacity to be a source of something different. That light, we can find it, we can create it inside with these simple practices. That source of love that we want to see in the world. We can move it beyond being a wishful thinking into being something real that we can feel by turning our practice to these very simple practices. We're so lucky. We can find it recorded online. We can read it in a book. We just sit down and we do it, let it soak in, and there it is. There's love in us. An open and clear mind can be there. Thank you.